healing. You have to reframe it. The more it hurts, the more it's healing. Okay, so let's get started by stepping back a second. Now, what we're going to try to do today for the first part, at the end we're going to continue a discussion to evaluate together what we've done here. You filled out the forms so we have an idea, but it's important that we also hear from you. But before that, let's just move to try to get to the major points that I wanted to make here. The major point that we're talking about is that differentiation is not an issue just for families. The differentiation is something that happens in systems. Whenever there's a group, whenever there's a school, whenever there's an institution, whenever there's a family institute, wherever there's an institution of any sort, and many of you have experiences in schools. So the example that we're using is a school. The way that people act will look in many ways like families. That's the first part. What does that mean? You take a school and you ask, where is the possibility for co-creation in dyads in the school? You can ask that about families, right? You say, can people speak from an I position? So you go into the teacher's room and you say, what can people say and what can they not say, right? And if two people are talking, how much does that have to do with how they want to find favor with the principal or get advanced as opposed to saying what they feel about what's happening? And the second is, since we're dealing with families, and you'll be dealing with families echo back and forth with institutions. So if you have a family with a low differentiation, and then you want to go to the school, you can expect that the school has been influenced by the lower differentiation of the family. And the school is not at its best. That doesn't mean the school is always that way. But a lot of times what you find is the differentiation of the family will look like the differentiation in the school, and vice versa. If you're in a school, there are schools, for example, where the staff can't say what they really feel, and that they have to make sure that the principal is happy with everybody, and there's no room for co-creation. Nothing new has happened in years, whereas in a place like a school, where there's a bunch of kids that are all developing, new things need to be happening daily. If new things are not happening daily, something is frozen. Something, not the whole curriculum, but some kind of co-creation, something where there's something new that's happening. If that's not happening, the school has drifted into a lower differentiation. And you will find sometimes that when you have a family with a crisis with a kid, and there weren't crises with the children before that, that family is being impacted by the differentiation of the school. Can you imagine that? In other words, that the mother says to the father, I can't talk to the teacher about this because the principal will do this and that. And the father says, but then I can't talk to you about it. And she says, well, then don't talk to me about it, because the main thing is he shouldn't have to leave school. The main thing is to make the school happy. And so the differentiation of the discussion in the family becomes limited from the differentiation of the school. Who started it? Moot question. Right? It's not a useful question. The useful question is, how do you work at the interface between systems? And in doing family work, we're almost always dealing also with interfaces with other systems that have their own level of differentiation. In the families that you were seeing here, there's somebody in school, there's somebody in yeshiva, there's somebody in the seminary, there's somebody who's interacting, who's a member of a family and a member of another system. And if you have 8 kids in 8 different schools, so you have a lot of systems. And what we're trying to look at is how you work at the interface between the family and the school. Okay, that's a sort of a very theoretical way of looking at it. Now, what we started to look at was this boy Jerry. Yeah.
I just going back to a couple weeks ago. I think also therapists have to pay attention to what role the principal and the teachers puts the therapist in. That's very important in terms of being successful working with the system.
Right. And we're going to see that right now, because in this family, The school says to the therapist, fix the kid. And the family says to the therapist, fix the school. And what the crisis, in other words, the symptom, is that important, the symptom? Well, it depends how you look at it. You might want to look at it like an Iberchocham and say, well, a symptom is a superficial expression of things that are deeper, and you start to do time, going back to God knows where, and you say, the symptom isn't the issue is everything else. Or you could say, that's where the wheels are. The wheels are in the symptom. That's where the clash is. That's where the pain is. That's where the movement is. You see, if you recall, we talked about symptoms. We said they express the problem in the family. Now we're going to see that it expresses the problem in the family, the problem in the school, and the problem at the interface between the family and the school. But the symptom is at the interface. And that's why we work at the interface, because that's where the money is. That's where the action is. That's where everything is sort of over-determined. Everything is spilled in. And a lot can change inside each system while you say, well, really, I'm focusing on having Jerry and the school work out. Why do you focus on that? Because that's the only thing that's important? No, because that's where the action is. That's where the wheels are. If you can work and see both the family and the school want something to happen there. So that's where you negotiate with the systems, what your role is. So if you recall, Jerry first had his teacher. Jerry is an Italian neighborhood. The teacher was black. You can imagine the curse. And this is back in the 70s, 60s. Things were not supposed to happen. And so the problem was in school. And the principles are that you intervene at the interface between the two systems. Okay, that we talked about last time. And for those of you who don't remember, the young trainee family therapist in this case is none other than Lynn Hoffman, who some of you have been struggling to understand all semester. But then she was in training, and the senior therapist is this one of the great geniuses, unrecognized geniuses of family therapy, Harry Aponte, a Puerto Rican psychiatrist who worked in Philadelphia. So Lynn and Harry created another system, and it's a good idea, which unfortunately we don't have a way to do yet, but it's certainly something to think about. It's a good idea to work with a co-therapist. Why? First of all, you're not alone. That's pretty simple. But second of all, you create a subsystem, and then co-therapists pay attention to the differentiation in their subsystem. Two people have a level of differentiation. The issue is to what extent the co-creation is possible, right? So when two people are creating a system with a higher differentiation, that influences the other systems that they're going to be working with. Yeah.
Isn't that a good idea to implement in our clinic?
What's that?
We don't have that in our clinic.
Right, we don't have that in our clinic. One of the reasons we don't have it in our clinic, and it's something that we need to speaking of our clinic, now we're all here, right? But just one second. I can try to talk over all the chairs, but the tape will just have screeching and scratching. So why don't we have co-therapists here in the clinic? Well, this is an intergender co-therapist. This is a man and a woman, right? Is it possible to have two men as co-therapists, two women as co-therapists? Yeah, in principle. I don't think that a man and a woman as co-therapist would be so welcome within Beis Yaakov, so maybe that's what we should be looking for. It's something for the future. In other words, up until now, the clinic hasn't worked in co-therapy. Family therapy was founded largely in co-therapy. The original family therapists did not work alone. You saw Napier and Whitaker. They were working together. It's a marvelous co-therapy situation. And the ultimate training is that's how Napier was trained, right? He worked with Whitaker and so forth. That's something that let's say what I inherited didn't include that. I would hope that we can move towards that.
Even among families, these therapists are seeing different family members and spouses.
Right. So the question that we need to work out together with you people is if there's a kid, a boy, he's going to be seeing a man. If there's a girl, she's going to be seeing a woman. The man and the woman therapist have to become co-therapists. We have to figure out for whom that works and for whom that doesn't work, because it's not going to work for everybody. And how we make that work and what price we pay if we can't make it work, that's a cultural creation. We have to see what's possible and how to make it work is best. But the idea of two people certainly doesn't have to be both genders. It doesn't have to be. Anyway, so...
And what does that co-creation among the therapists do for, why isn't it enough that the therapist is co-creating with the clients? Well, why do you need more co-creation?
Because any two people who are unable to co-create end up losing differentiation. In other words, co-creation isn't such a big deal if you think about it. It means that there's something I hadn't said before that I'm now going to say, something that I hadn't heard before that I'm able to listen to. And so something small changes. You know, Rev. Refson suggested that I read Ale Shore, and if you look at the notion of Islamid, right, the idea of interacting with the world and becoming different through it, so you always want to be able to do that. In other words, there should be nothing that you already know. There should be things, everything, including your co-therapist, is somebody who you have the past and now you're creating the present. The present that's not creating itself, that isn't changing you, that isn't doing something new, is dead, right? And so we don't want co-therapists to be dead. And the opposite is the case. When the co-therapists are able and safer with each other than they are with the school, with the family, their ability to creatively interact, let's say co-creatively interact, that creates something in the room which brings the level of the therapeutic system higher, where differentiation becomes possible. A simple way to talk about it is modeling. That's a sort of a simplistic way to look at it, but there's nothing the matter with that, right? That the father and the mother see the co-therapists are able to talk to each other and disagree and think and, echo back and forth. The assumption is that human beings like that. That's my assumption. Not everybody's assumption. It's my assumption. I think human beings like that. In other words, I think that human beings, when they see co-creation, they want it. They feel that's what human life is about. And they're sometimes frightened about whether they can do it and what the risks are. But there's a wish to be able to do that, which if we don't have that, it's kind of hard to understand how we accomplish anything except tell people how to act. So let's, Eunice, you know.
So how's an intimate relationship that's created between the client and the therapist if there are two of them? Like an individual.
Well, let's follow this case and see. You'll see that it sort of divides. But if you ask how does a child have an intimate relation with both parents, right? So, yeah, right? In other words, the whole idea of a triangle, of a triad rather than a triangle, is room for each dyad. So the dyad of the co-therapist and the dyad of each therapist with each part of the system. So the person, and this you'll have lots of experience with this, who refers children or families for treatment? Guidance counselors, right? Why? The guidance counselor is not undergoing. But the guidance counselor gets the headache from the teacher, right? The teacher says, this kid, a rare teacher, or let's say a very successful guidance counselor, the teacher says, this kid is driving me nuts. Is that a fair statement? Some of you have been teachers, right? I don't know what to do. This kid is driving me nuts. And the guidance counselor says, oh, what are you and this child co-creating? Right? What is it about you and about the child and about the class? And I'm going to help you to resolve what goes on, because you're in principle a competent teacher, and this kid in principle is a human being, and that's the only requirement for being in school is that you're a human being. So this child is a human being. So let's assume that you can do something different, and I'm going to help you. Anybody here been a guidance counselor? That's what keeps guidance counselors alive, right? They're doing systems work. They're doing family therapy in a small way. They're saying in the system for the guidance counselor and the kid, I'm going to help your dyad to become co-creative. When does it get lost? The teacher says, same old, right? This kid comes in and does the same old thing. And what do you do with the same old thing? Oh, so let's think about what we might try. that would change it, that would make it something that could be created between you and the kid. I can't stand this kid. Oh, well, maybe it's gone too far, and you're not the place to do the co-creation with this kid. Because teachers get burned out. There are times when you get somebody so irritated, right? The requirement of being a teacher is not that you be a tzaddik. You just have to be a teacher. So that means that some kids, you're just not going to make it with them. And the important thing about keeping the system alive is to be curious about it, and that the school has some room to learn, welcome, and to learn and create with it. So this guidance counselor has a headache, and she wasn't able to co-create. Jerry is swearing at the teacher. The teacher says correctly, in America in the 60s or 70s, once a child diminishes me, it's what's referred to as the "this is me." You know the term to disrespect? It comes from the black ghetto. So once a teacher has dissed me as a racial slur, that's it. Now, why is it? Because that was America in the 60s and 70s. In other words, just you couldn't get beyond that. And so the kid had crossed the lines, right? And this teacher wasn't going to go anywhere except to bellyache to the guidance counselor that this kid is a miserable racist and God knows what, and maybe the whole Italian ghetto is, and so forth. And so the guidance counselor has a problem, which is that this isn't going anywhere. So what does the guidance counselor do? Goes and bellyaches to the family. They say, your child is no good. Well, the family says, in school, he has a problem. At home, he seems to be okay. He's not dissing anybody in our Italian community, so, we don't know what to do about that. How are we going to fix him and the teacher? It's a good question, right? How is a family supposed to fix the interface between the child and the teacher? So the guidance counselor says, you guys go to therapy. And they're sort of lucky, they get no less than Harry Aponte and Lynn Hoffman, who apparently wanted to write a paper, so they wanted to get this one right. Or they got it right and then they got the paper. And so the preparation is that you have to hear the beginning points. What are the beginning points? We call it an I position, right? In other words, what is the I position? The I position is not where you end, it's where you start, right? The idea of an I position is the beginning of a dance that then develops. So the guidance counselor says that either Jerry changes or he can't be in our school. Is that going to be the end of the therapy? Well, it's the end of the therapy. It says it'll never start if we start there. But that's what she feels. She feels, I don't know what to do about this. We don't know why yet. So we're taking our time. But that's her position. And the principal gives, as principals always do when they have no idea what to do, you always give support to your staff instead of helping them. Just give them support. Say, keep doing what you're doing. Instead of saying, I think you're fine. Support is, I think you're fine. That doesn't mean what you're doing is fine. So I think you're fine in the sense that if you're a good teacher, you probably can do better, right? That's support. But sometimes systems support failures. They say, well, it's fine that it's that way. So the principal agrees, and we have Harry and Lynn agreeing that they're going to be the therapeutic system, and the school accepts them as the people who are going to what? What is the role that the school is giving Harry and Lynn? To fix the school? Yeah. To fix the kid? But is that the role that the therapists want? No. So you see how it works? In other words, the dance works with options, which then you have to put wheels under them. You say, well, that's a place to start. We've understood you. Let's move on. Let's see what the next. So the next step.
Well, what is the school giving them?
Sorry?
What is the school giving them?
The school is giving them the role. The school is giving them the role of fixing the kid. Right?
Parents, the role of fixing the kid.
The therapist. So the guidance counselor is referring to family child guidance in Philadelphia, where Harry was working with Sal Manouchian, and the school is giving them the role of fixing the kid. So Harry and Lynn don't talk about that role, they say we'll do our best. Does that mean you agree on how you're going to do it? No. It means that you're going to do your best to get what the school wants, but you decide how you do it, right? But you're going to do your best. So now we enter into the system. Entering into the system is a meeting between the school and the parents, where the principal tells these Italian parents what awful racial slur Jerry has pronounced in class to his black teacher. That's the beginning. It's a good place to end too, right? There are no more charged things than this in the American. You know, that you say to yourself, "Oh, this one's not going to go anywhere. This Italian kid cursed at the black teacher. This is going nowhere." You know, this is a highly charged. You can think of current Israel and highly charged things. We say, "Oh." Nothing was more charged in America than this issue. And so we're entering into the family. The therapist, Jerry's in the room. Here's where the therapy starts. Now, what is Jerry used to? He's used to being yelled at, right? He's used to being dissing is mutual, right? He's used to being told that he's a bad boy, and that you can never do that again, and you've got written, the things that you do with that finger. And the Israeli term for it? It's in the dictionary of Israeli slang. This one is called nu nu nu. There's 3 entries. There's nu, nu nu, and nu nu nu. This one's nu nu nu. So, and that's the official Israeli word for it. So maybe I should put that in our dictionary. So the principle is that Jerry, nu nu nu. Is there anything new about nu nu nu? So Harry and Lynn want to do something a little different. So what do? They say in the presence of the principal, in the presence of the family, what do you think they say to Jerry? In the room, the principal's doing this. What do you think they do with Jerry? This is what's called joining. They see the world through Jerry's eyes. Not only Jerry's eyes, but also Jerry's eyes. In other words, Jerry's sort of being erased here. So they say to him, this is not easy, right? This is the whole thing in school, and this moment when the principal's doing this, your life is very, very difficult right now. And no one's ever said that to Jerry. If you think about the kids who get this all the time, they don't get this. It's sort of exclusive. You get this, but you don't get this. Any good guidance counselor knows that this is a way, like the hand is closed and it needs to be opened. And what you do with the teacher is you help her to go from this to this, right? So the school hasn't been able to do that. So we're at the open your hand. So they open their hand and they say, this is not, it's so difficult to be Jerry right now. And it is in the room. He's in tough shape. So while everybody's angry at him, somebody is trying to understand. And that allows Jerry to do something which, if he doesn't do it, nobody can do it for him. Which is to say, you are my therapist. Jerry hadn't said that to the guidance counselor. We'll get to why in a minute. And what you need to create, that's what the Yerushalayim refers to as joining, is that every member of the family, including kids, have a connection to us. That's what we call co-creating, right? It's sort of direct. It doesn't solve the problem. You have to sort of, phenomenologists would call this bracketing. You say, right now, we are understanding you, but, how's that going to solve the problem? But, are you good? But, there are no buts. Right now, we are understanding this part of reality. We're understanding that it is tough to be Jerry right now. Is that a fact? Yes. Does that allow him to say, that could make you my therapist? I don't know what you're going to do with it. I don't know. But I'm willing to go with it because you've spoken to me differently. You see, the guidance counselor and the teacher weren't able to open their hand. You opened your hand. You said, there's this, and to get this is difficult. So Jerry says, Okay? You guys give it a try. Have you had that experience with kids? It's a very important experience with kids. But you know, they say, okay, I think you got everything. You know, no one's ever going to get everything, right? You got this. There's this little piece that somebody else hasn't gotten yet, and you've got it. And that moves me. And how do you know that it moves him? We've been talking about this for a year. How do I know that when I open my hand with Jerry that something's happened to him? What would be a sign of that? Oh, come on. That it moves me. We're talking about co-creation, right? In other words, that when I interact with him in that way, you can use, I mentioned before this term, Islamic, right? So in that interaction, you're Islamic. You're changing something. It's something that's happening to you as you're interfacing with Jerry. That's co-creation. You know?
So in other words, wouldn't you say that you're creating that I-thou moment?
Right. Those of you who are able to think of Uber as Chochmas Agoyim and not as an Apikoros, it depends how you want to think about it. It's an I-thou moment. Exactly. That's the connection. The whole idea of co-creation was created by Buber, and then it took 100 years. In 1923, it'd be 100 years to I and Thou. There's a lot of activity going on about it, and yeah, that would be the co-creation. But you see, how do I know that there's a co-creation? I know it from my side. I don't take a microscope and look and measure his pulse and, you know, do something objective and see. I take him in as a person, and it moves me. If I feel that see, what did I do? I decided to do that. But deciding to do it and doing it are different things. Relationships aren't things you decide to do. Relationships are things that you do. So I decided to reach out and to feel something different with Jerry. And if I succeeded in feeling something different with him, that's the best evidence that something's happened with him. You don't have to look any further. You don't have to say to Jerry, Jerry, okay, let's freeze the camera now. Was that good? Did you feel good? Are we okay? That's not the way to do it. You'll know. You know from the inside, that's the best authority. Keep going. If it crashes, it crashes. But so they join with Jerry. Now something has happened. You see, this therapy system of Harry and Lynn has joined with the principal, who says we can't have this, blah, blah, blah. And now they're also connected with the family. So whose side are they on? And the answer is they've created a situation where there are no sides. Right? In other words, they've taken a situation that, for those of you who remember Melanie Klein and Schizoid Paranoid, you know, that it's a split, that they've taken that and turned it into a depressive situation. Depressive means gray area. It means that there's room to move. It means you don't have to know everything all the time. And it means that people are not only against each other. They may have pain in interaction with each other. That doesn't necessarily mean they're against each other. Okay? That's what's working with you. So if you would freeze that there and say, look, you guys are zigzagging. You have to be consistent. What's your theory about Jerry in the school? How can you do that? What are you opening your hand to Jerry for? He's swearing at his teacher. You can't do that. It'll give him legitimation to swear at another, all that other nonsense, which makes a lot of noise for us. Or you could say, we're bracketing. This is where we're going now. We have to have a co-creation. I need it. I can't be his therapist if he doesn't want me to be his therapist. I can't be their family's therapist if they don't want me to be their therapist. Let's see what level of role they were giving me, right? So, at that point, Lynn talks to Jerry's parents about Jerry. Now, that doesn't sound right, hierarchically, right? How would you get to the kid before you get to the parents? You're not supposed to do that, right? You're supposed to talk to the parents because they were there before the kid. And you can add in that the parents must have created the problem with the kid. So why don't you just talk to the parents? What do you need the kid for, right? This kind of work, what we're saying is that once the parents have experienced the therapist co-creating with their child, they remember something. Something moves them. They say, oh, aside from being this miserable kid that everybody's ready to string up, we once thought he was cute and thought that he was adorable. And felt that it was wonderful to be his parent. It hasn't been that way for a couple of months or years, but no parent doesn't connect to that. In other words, when you open your hand with a child, the hearts of the parents open. They say, this could get us somewhere that we recognize. We can be there too. That's why you connect with kids. And you need the parents' permission. In this case, they felt the permission, so they went ahead and did it. But you see, what does that make the parents in the room? Parents. It allows them to become parents. So then, when you connect to the kid and you say, well, let's talk with you about your kid. But it's not about your kid. It's about Jerry. And Jerry has become alive to us. And so there's a Jerry that's done something to me, that I've allowed him to have his fingerprints on me. And now, with Jerry's fingerprints on my face, I can talk to the parents and they see somebody who's seen their child the way they used to see it once before it all collapsed. Yeah?
So it makes sense to me, but I'm wondering why that's not triangulating.
Why it's not what?
Triangulating. Like you talk to Jerry himself, why are you talking to it's like, as if you're talking about a third person.
So it would be triangulating if the regulation between therapists and parents is based on what they have to say about Jerry, right? But it's not. In other words, remember the triad and the triangle, right? This is a dyad within a triad. There's the dyad of the therapist and the parents. That has room. If the only place that it has room is to regulate ourselves about how bad Jerry is, then it's a triangle, because my relationship with the family has to do with dumping on the kid or whatever. But if I'm talking with them the same way I talk with him, so we're creating a triad. In other words, here I've connected with Jerry, that's one dyad, and now I'm connecting with the parents, that's another dyad. But what you're saying is certainly true. You got to watch it, because you slip into triangles very easily. Yeah.
So if Jerry doesn't know that you're speaking with the parents,
He's in the room.
no, so let's say he's not. Let's say
He's in the room. If he's not in the room, you have to negotiate it so he knows that it's going to happen.
That's what my question is. If the kid doesn't know that the parent, and it always happens that parents speak with the teacher, the kid doesn't know it.
Right.
And so
Oh, we
is
see,
that-
this is raising a very important point. That should never happen. In other words, when you're trying to work on solving a problem of a child's behavior, the child has to be connected to you. And to be his therapist, he has to trust you. Now, that doesn't mean that you take your orders from him. That's another story. But he has to feel that you always have him in mind in the way that he's been in mind when you connected with him, right? So all of those connections, all the times, when the kid, you say, well, I'm going to talk to your parents. Let's say you've talked to a child for an hour, and now you want to talk to the parents. So you say, well, I'm going to speak with your parents if it's okay with you. If it's not okay, I'll explain to you why, I would like to do it. But what do you imagine it's going to be like? Is there something that you don't want me to talk to them about yet? What if a kid says, I don't want you yet to tell them about X, right? So you do what's called an open secret. You say, that's fine. I'll tell them there's an X, and I won't tell them what X is, right? And then the parents, you say, well, we're in the beginning of treatment, and Jerry needs room to be talking about something that he's not yet able to talk to you about. Of course, the point of the treatment is to help him and you to have that conversation. We're not quite there yet. So if it's okay with you, we're going to keep that in the therapy. The parents say yes, they're part of the therapy. The parents say no, you've lost the therapy. You have to work on it. You have to say, what's the trouble? What are you afraid of? And the parents will say, well, he's going to slander us or this and that. That depends on your relationship with the parents. But basically, a child in therapy needs to know what's going on. Children, they go to school. School is a complicated place. And it's true that boys kind of, you guys will excuse me, boys kind of float through school. And mainly, get to the class and you get to rest in recess. Girls understand schools. You listen to the chatter of girls when they're 8 or 9. They understand understand the system of the school perfectly. They know who's friendly with who's not friendly with who's probably talking behind who's back. If you ask them, what do you think is going on in the teacher's room now, they'll get a 90. They'll say, oh, those two are talking about that one, and this one's doing that, and so on, and this one's doing this show. They get it. Boys pay a little less attention to that, I think. You know, they're sort of more into their own group and less into watching other social groups. So kids know what's going on. So it's better that the therapy, they always know what's going on. And then if it's difficult, so you find out what the difficulty is and you solve it. So, so now we're talking about the parents, yeah.
So the beginning of the treatment, I mean, it sounded like in the beginning of this case that the parents were on Jerry's side, right? The principal came in saying no, the parents were like, well, he's fine at home. Jerry, so it does seem like Jerry doesn't have issue with his parents, so what would be the beginning? Curious, I guess that maybe this is also more general, what would be joining, assuming that the child and the parents already joined and they have a positive relationship and a triad, and the therapist is to help, where would it, how would that be affected?
But just imagine, this family, just imagine that you're in the room, you're Jerry, right? The best thing to do to understand these treatments is to imagine that you're Jerry. So you're in the room with mom and dad, and the principal is doing this, and it's a bad one. It's a really, socially burdened, really bad one, right? And the principal is doing this, and you're Jerry. You're not quite sure what's going to happen with your parents. You're not sure. This is beyond them. In other words, if you had parents who would say to the principal, listen, there were issues between us, let's try. You won't need Lynn and Harry, right? You'll have a family that's differentiated enough to be able to do triads. But at this point, with the emotional burden of what the principal is doing, there's the principal and the parents who are at risk of creating a triangle against Jerry, right? And so if you were Jerry, you would say, I'm not going to get out of this one alive, right? No computer for the whole summer, or whatever the computer is, whatever the punishment is. I'm just not going to make it, right? I can just see my parents don't know what to say to the principal. Few parents know what to say to the principal. The only parents who know what to say to the principal are the parents who already know what another school option is. If you have another option of another school, you can talk to the principal differently, right? But if you don't, and oftentimes you don't, then you say, uh-oh, the world is about to swallow us up here. This principal's doing this, we don't get this kid, we don't know what to do. So,
so the first step is that you're making sure that you have the family, that Jerry, his parents, and you are all working together.
That's what, so you connect the dyad of the therapist with Jerry. He makes you his therapist. The hand opens, the heart opens. Then when you talk to the parents, that's already happened. You see, you build from one step to another. All of family therapy, it may look sort of theoretical that, you work according to the model, bang, 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 and it all happens. That isn't how it works. You have to create moments. And one moment allows the next moment to happen. So the moment of connecting with Jerry now allows for him to allow you, because you're on his side also, to connect with his parents on his side, not against them. The school, 5 minutes ago in the room, it was against him, right? It's no longer, yeah.
Maybe this is the same thing as what you're describing, but if the child is feeling threatened by the principal's anger, disappointment, modeling for it means, let's say, speaking back to the principal and saying is, do you mean to say that Jerry is beyond hope? Are you threatening, like modeling a way of, which means you're recognizing Jerry's fears and giving expression to intervene. That's not...
So Moshe is asking an alternative question. That's when you know you're in the sugya, right? Because maybe it's this way, right? So, yes, what Moshe is saying is, could we have done something different? Instead of doing it this way, what if I had said to the principal, I know that the school is very, very upset, and this, business of racial slurs is a hot number here, and everybody's very troubled about it. But let me just understand how you think about Jerry aside from that. Do you think that he's only one racial slur? Do you see anything else in it? Is that a possibility? Of course it's a possibility. You want to have one possibility, don't come to this course. That's, this isn't a course for one possibility. Of course it's a possibility. At the moment, you have to sort of say, is the principal ready to hear this yet, right? Or does the principal need to see, from the principal's point of view, the kid needs fixing. Does the principal need to see that we're going to start to work with the family? And then when the principal sees that we're going to start to work with the family, that will allow the principal to let us work with the school too. That's how they were thinking. Is that the only way to think? No. It depends on the principal.
What's the work being done with it? Meaning, if he's fine at home and Jerry swore once at a teacher, what's the work other than joining, which doesn't sound like it should take that long?
We're about to see it. We're about to see it. Because you assume, the idea that a kid makes a racial slur in class, it has two pieces to it. One is back home and one is in school. And so we want to look at both pieces. Now, are we going to find out the family is just very highly differentiated, the school is a total disaster? Probably not. We'll see that, as we get along. Probably they're echoing back and forth difficulties in maintaining differentiation. So we now are in Jerry's presence and in the principal's presence, connecting with the parents, making them parents of this kid. So you see, Jerry is not just this kid that I can do in my school whatever I want. He has parents. He has parents who love him. He has parents who maybe want to work with him. He has parents who could also be partners. And that allows the main step, which is that, you see, father is brought into this meeting. He hasn't been in the meetings before. Fathers never show up at school. Or at least in those days they didn't show up. And these days, it all depends where. So here we have this unique thing where we tell the father, you got to pitch up here. We need you here. And the father, who's under-involved in the family, and that's the classic family therapy case of all of the 70s and 80s. An under-involved father, you bring the father and make him more involved, the mother can be less over-involved. All of the cases that you've seen, the bedwetting case, the case of the Blood and Little Hounds at the end of Haley's book that you read, all of those cases are under-involved. Like you rediscover the wheel, but it always comes out the same wheel, and the question is how to work with it. Is that the case now? I don't know. It's easy to learn from those. I'm not sure that it's always the case, either in America or here. But anyway, you get the father to say, see, if the father has some things to say, says, I don't know, the boys, these other, Jerry's the oldest boy, the boys, that's how they refer to them. The boys don't listen much to mom. And he has criticism of mom. Now that doesn't look good, right? Because here we have, we have a triangle, and father's dumping on mom to the therapist. And so the therapist, when the father complains, they say to themselves, that's a symptom. There's wheels under that. There's power there. We could see his saying that as trying to become involved and helping. He just doesn't know how. In other words, the only way that he knows how to help a mother to be clearer with her family full of boys, house full of boys, is to criticize her. But we can open our hand and say, I guess you want to try to help. Now, is it true or not true? It hasn't yet been true. If you looked at, he had a little bird. One of the Wagner's operas is a little bird that, somebody says something and the little bird tells the hero what the person really meant. He says, welcome to my cave. And the bird says, because that's where I'm going to kill you. And you hear the bird say, oh, this isn't, So we don't have a bird like that. If we had a bird, the bird might say, the father would say, I'm not here to help anybody. I'm here to criticize my wife. She's a failure, right? But we're putting wheels under it. You're saying the fact that you're here to say that means you want to be part of it, doesn't it? So how about if we count on your help? Because we, the therapists, need your help. We, not your wife. We need your help in working with Jerry. Would that be okay? Now, the father who came in feeling like the only thing I can do is criticize because nobody listens to me. So all I can do is bark because I don't have a bite. Nobody listens to me. She says, look, go drink your beer and watch television and watch the football game. And I don't So suddenly, these therapists who are connected with the son, they're connected with the principal, they're pretty powerful people in the world, say, we need your help. Oh, so you're offering to help. So the father agrees that he's going to help Jerry and the boys to listen to mom more. You see the small step, right? So now the father, what is he doing? He's making us his therapist, right? Now Jerry has made us the therapist, and so has the father. The moment the father says, I want you to help me to help her, the mother's in. That's not a problem, right? I mean, that's exactly what she wants. So, so in a couple of small steps, yeah. Is that a pencil? You want to ask something? Oh, okay. And so what happens? Jerry agrees. This goes back to your question about, is this a triangle? Is this talking with the parents against Jerry? So what's happened? We're not talking in the family only about Jerry. We're talking about all the boys, right? And we're talking about father and mom. Father helping mom to have all of the boys. And so Jerry, who's made us his therapist, pikata, with opening the hand, now he says, yeah, that'll work. Dad's going to help mom, and home's going to be better. Go for it. I'm with you. See how you close the dyads? Yeah.
I wanted to ask, what if the father complaining was instead, like, let's switch the situation a tiny bit, what if he was blaming the mother? Like, it's her problem.
Right.
So then what did the therapist do?
Let's say the father says, I didn't come here to have you tell me to start the change. Do you remember that? Remember that? In other words, the higher the level of differentiation, the family comes in and says, let's try to imagine how we become the way we are. Okay, you'll see a family here and there like that, and they will make you therapists because they're the ones who give you understanding. And then there are the families who say, we're not here to think and feel, we're here for you to tell us what to do now in the room. So what have we just done? We told them what to do now in the room. Okay, the father says, no, I'm not here to give you that role. So you can say, which they used to say in Philadelphia, this is an untreatable family. He's not giving me this role. Or, which I think is preferable, you can say, he's not giving me this role, what role is he giving me, right? And so you go down a level of differentiation and say, I guess we're going to have to be an expert. And then you can throw everybody out of the room and try to understand when Jerry swears at the teacher, what happens in the family. And then, have the family spend from 8:30 to 8:45 every night where they pretend to be the teacher, first the father and then the mother, and Jerry does the swearing. In other words, they take the symptom, but you recreate it in such a way that you change all three dyads in the central triangle. Am I talking Chinese? Yes, you understand? Remember that? Right? You change simultaneously. That's strategic therapy. So somebody's made me the expert. So I go and I tell them to do that, and I'm satisfied that it's a reasonable thing. And they come back in 2 weeks and say, we actually were tired, so we didn't do it. So then you say, well, they're untreatable. That would be what Haley would say. Or you can say, they're not giving me that role. I guess they're giving me a role of protecting them from change. They're afraid that they might all fall apart. And then you do a different kind of therapy, which you'll be learning about the last semester. It's not something, I know that it's frustrating. It's important to know that these things are there, so you know what role you're negotiating for. How to do the more low differentiation role treatments is a whole course. We'll get to that when we do psychopathology. In this case, it's like all of the tapes. It worked, so they didn't throw the tape out. What percentage of the tapes were kept in Philadelphia? 5%. The rest is like work. It works, it doesn't work. It doesn't look like that. So, these kinds of cases, you try to learn what the small steps are, but you have to remember that you're in the presence of genius. Harry Ponte was a genius, and then Alfred was pretty close to a genius. And so you want to learn from them, but you say to yourself, oh, I'm going to go to this school, I'm going to do that? Well, maybe, because why? Because you have to be a genius to do it. You have to be a genius to create it. You don't have to be a genius to learn it. You have to have people who are willing to give you the role. And then, remember what I told you about Winnicott's famous statement? when the child walks in the room, he's dreamt the person who can help him. When all these people walk into the family therapy room, they've dreamt the person who can help them. They'll help you to do it if you can find your way right. You don't have to create the wheel. Creating the wheel is another story. Yeah.
Good. Could you give an example with this case of what the therapist would do, like as an expert or lower differentiated?
What would the therapist do here?
What as a lower differentiated system?
It will distract us. In other words, we're going to spend a semester on that. As I say, it's a whole different use of yourself, and you need to be more experienced working with people. To be able
Isn't
to
that
do
most of our work often? We're starting at a lower differentiated place with clients. Isn't that like me?
Kind of. That's one of the big problems in training. That you have to be trained beginning with where it's a little easier, but not all of your families are easier. But that we need few supervisors for now, because I want to just go on and try to learn what we can from this case. Yeah.
What did the mother give the therapist in the role of therapist?
If this mother went to therapy,
No, in this case.
yeah.
When did she agree that the therapist would be the therapist?
Okay. It's not in the. You read the chapter? Anybody read the chapter? This is a chapter to read. They tell you what they do. Some therapists tell you what you should do. The people who you really should read are the ones who say, look, this is what I did. I did this, I said that, and then you sort of walk through with them and say, how this works, how that works. So, what do I think the mother did? What do I think happened with the mother? I think that when the mother saw that Jerry became a client, and she saw that her husband became a client, it's a no-brainer for her. That's exactly what she wants. She wants her husband's help with the boys. She wants Jerry to have somebody that he can, work with. So she's there.
Is that typical of women, of wives?
I don't know what's typical. I don't know what's typical because
You don't know why?
you go across the street and over there it's not typical. I don't know.
No, because you spoke about them knowing, women
See,
knowing what's going on.
in these, original family therapy cases, it wasn't typical because overall the notion was that not only is the father under involved, but the mother's over involved. You remember little Hans from the end of the 80s when the kid was afraid of dogs? He had to get the mother, to give the kid some space. So what helped her to do that? We had to help her to do that, to see that she was suffering and the kid was suffering and that it's worth trying something different. Is that typical of women, that they're more willing to say, we'll give it a try, we'll try to trust you? Women are more trusting than men, you could say, but not
Well,
always.
but that is the typical women, if they see their husbands,
What?
if they see their husbands actually changing, then they
It
commit.
depends. She may say, I don't need your help. What kind of an insult is that, right? You're thinking of alternatives, the other way that it could go. Say, what do I not? You don't think I can handle the boys? I can handle the boys. You go out there and work and stop drinking beer and wasting your time. So then you have a different family, right? But let's stay with this family. It's enough to learn from one family at a time. When you're working with families, you'll be happy if something works. Afterwards, you'll talk with your supervisors about what else you could have done. But if something works, it's worth paying attention to that. So now, the problem is the homeroom teacher is telling the therapist that Jerry's swearing, and he's writing notes. He's writing notes with racial slurs. So the homeroom teacher is going to nail this kid to the Christian family, to the cross, and she has the evidence. She has the goods on him. He's writing these racial slurs. She has the notes. She has the evidence. So there's the power. And this is now being shown to the parents. By who? By the therapists. The therapists are working in between, at the interface. There's the notes that's in school. There's the family here. It goes by way of the therapist. It hasn't gone before. Now, why hasn't it gone before? We'll find out in a minute. But the therapists are creating communication between the two systems that hasn't happened before. Easy communication? Not exactly. It's these notes that you don't want to know about. But that's the communication that starts to happen. The family had never seen these notes, and so Lynn is creating communication. So Lynn says, "Oh, well now there's a symptom for you. This homeroom teacher is getting, this kid is writing things and making the teacher plutz and hate him. And the family has never seen the notes. So that's a question for the school system, right? There's a homeroom teacher and there's a guidance counselor. How did this happen? Whatever the kid is saying, doing in class, the guidance counselor should be thinking about how to figure out what it means, which means at home too. So Lynn asked the guidance counselor, what has been the pattern of communication between the family and the school? And guess what the guidance counselor says? She says, these parents are such losers that I was sure that if I let them know what Jerry was doing in school, they would kill him. And so I decided to protect them and you by just trying to solve it between me and Jerry. A good heart, right? Now, a good heart with but a loose cannon. So there was the guidance counselor believes, as all of us believe at some point in our career, as a matter of fact, at all points in our career, then we have to just sort of overcome it, that if we just, that I can take care of it. In other words, that whatever it is, doesn't matter who else is involved, that I can solve this with Jerry. In other words, if Jerry feels that I can understand him. But now, let's just think for a minute. Jerry knows that I think what about his parents? Uh-oh, right? By trying to protect Jerry from his parents. So I'm being very, very nice to Jerry, but I'm castrating his parents. I'm telling him that your parents can't tolerate my telling them what you're doing. So I'm voting no confidence in your parents. That isn't what guidance counselors usually want to do, but that's what they do some of the time. I mean, all of us are in those situations where in the system you say, oh, who knows what is going on. If this kid is writing those kinds of notes, so what kind of parents must he have? So what are they going to do to him? And it's going to make it worse, so I'm going to protect him, right? And that is a human, put it this way, if you think about the guidance counselor, it's a very humane way to do it. It's a mistake. There are humane mistakes. Not everything that has good intentions and that wants to solve things are correct. You have to be precise. Since you're dealing with the interface between two systems, this is a very well-meaning and dangerous mistake. That's what we do all the time. We have well-meaning, dangerous mistakes. If you wanted to, psychoanalyze the guidance counselor, which I don't particularly, but you could say, where'd she get this notion of that she can do things by herself? Where does that come from? And where it comes from is the thing that brings all of us into this room. We want to believe that we're fine dimension. We want to believe that we can help people. We want to believe that there are things in our hands that can help other people. And that makes us sometimes blind to the other people around us who are part of the solution. Remember, the whole issue here is to take people who are part of the problem and reframe them as part of the solution. So the guidance counselor said, in essence, I'm the only part of the solution. When you look in the mirror, you can see two things. They're both true. That she has very good intentions, that she's a wonderful person, and that she is gone a little beyond what human beings can do. We work between people in relationships. See, she doesn't say to herself, what are Jerry's relationships with his father, with his mother, with the teachers? She says, who is Jerry? And his relationship with me can solve it all. Well, there isn't a person in this room, including me, who hasn't felt that a lot of the time. That's what brings us here. And then we overcome it if we want to work on other people's relationships. In family therapy, we say, it isn't about me. That's a tough one. It isn't about me. It's about your relationship. I'm going to help you with your relationship, not your relationship with me. See, if you go back to what Dina said about the I thou, you say, I'm here to create an I thou with you. I'm here to do this thing with you. That's what I'm here for. But what does that say about your other relationships? Like people you live with, like your family, right? So what we try to do in family therapy is say, I have a role. My main role is to help you with the relationships in your life. And when you're working on your relationships in your life, I stand by and I try to tolerate the fact that you guys are in and I'm out. Family therapists are out. The actual co-creating mainly takes place between other people. That's the bracha in family therapy. When something happens between two people, not me. I sometimes, a way of making that start to happen something happening between me and Jerry. But something happening between me and Jerry, let's say Lynn says, oh, Jerry's made me a therapist. Is that new? Same old, that's what the guidance counselor was doing. They say only me. See, me, that's an important piece of it. Only me. It's a dangerous piece of it. And that's the danger that we all fall into, because not only do we believe it, but the families believe it. The family would like to believe, talk to the guidance counselor, talk to the therapist, leave us alone, right? Because, and then they'll give us this grandiose role of being able to do it all ourselves, and then we forget that we're not their future, right? Within every therapeutic session, there's the understanding that there's going to be termination. We're not their people, right? We're trying to help them with their people, but we're going to not be there at some point. But so far, very few therapists adopt or marry their clients. Not never, but very few. Very few therapists either adopt or marry their clients, although it's been known to happen. So the guidance counselor says, I've been a finer mensch. You can say a finer mensch or a bald guy, or whatever you want, but I've been trying to solve it, and then not to worry the parents. And so, now, but we're talking about the guidance counselor in her role. We're not psychoanalyzing. We're talking about her role in the school, which means that the guidance counselor has been interrupting communication between the school and the parents. And that makes the parents less effective because they have no idea what's going on. So now we bring in the homeroom teacher, and the homeroom teacher says something about the school. She says, look, this is a ghetto school. Philadelphia Child Guidance was in the ghetto in Philadelphia. This is a ghetto school. There's too many kids. It's a big balagan. There's no discipline in the class. And frankly, I'm cooked. That's what she says, I'm cooked. And Jerry is just, he's the one who lights the fire, but I'm cooked as it is. And so we then ask about the other subject teachers. There's a homeroom teacher and there's the other subjects. Guess what? Jerry's fine with the other subject teachers. They're not cooked. They don't see him that much. Maybe some bad turn has happened with the homeroom teacher, but Jerry gets along. In other words, his place in school is with one person, right? And with the subject teachers, he gets along. So now we've mapped, what have we mapped? We've mapped the school system, right? And we've seen that the guidance counselor created a triangle between Jerry and the homeroom teacher, where she and Jerry were communicating and hiding it from the homeroom teacher. And so the homeroom teacher says, and this is very important, the homeroom teacher can't, be given mussar here. The result of this has to be that the homeroom teacher is absolutely right. Now, the word absolutely is communicative, but it's not philosophical. But the homeroom teacher is justified. She, with her role, with this class, in this setting, in this community, in this historical time, it's not going to work with Jerry. It's too much, right? And so, when the homeroom teacher is justified, we can move Jerry to a different homeroom teacher. Now, somebody here, because you're all smart people, is going to say, what is this nonsense? Jerry didn't get along with the homeroom teacher, so he needs a new homeroom teacher. What's this article about? You just change his homeroom teacher, everything's going to work, right? Well, the notion here is no, that if you only change the homeroom teacher, he's going to get into the same trouble with the homeroom teacher. The issue is how you change the homeroom teacher. In other words, the issue is that you're working on changing things in the system, so you're helping the system to change the homeroom teacher, because a system is limited. Not everything is possible, and people are people, and the homeroom teacher is a person. And since she's a person, she's justified. Because that's who she is. In other words, accepting her I position. And I can't manage this with Jerry. Got it. Okay. So if you're justified, then you can have him go to another homeroom teacher without what? Without being at your failure. With it just being part of the solution, not part of the problem. In other words, this is a good thing to do, and we need to make sure the guidance counselor doesn't start to say, well, you're not such a great homeroom teacher. Last year some other kid had to leave your class. So this year, and she gets along well with those kinds of kids. Then you're going to be in trouble in the school. So you have to do it in a way that the homeroom teacher has not failed, Jerry has not failed, something new has to happen, that has the possibility of a different solution. So we're not just moving, pieces on the chessboard, right? So now, Harry and Lynn, yeah,
Whenever a family comes to you, whenever you have a situation, it's justified. As in, no one ever is coming with shtriot. Like if they're already coming, like there's obviously a position that's justified.
right.
So you can't always just flip parents or like.
No, but see, this is a particular place. The homeroom teacher is going out of the system, right? In other words, Jerry is leaving the homeroom. I just had this interesting consultation with the faculty of a social work school yesterday, where we discussed the question of, what happens when a student leaves. And it was interesting because half of the faculty is allergic to the word failure. It's as if the word failure means I fail. Why does failure mean I fail? Failure means something isn't working between people, and the question is what could work better, right? That's a different way of defining it. So obviously she's justified in the sense that the fact that she and Jerry are not going to make it work is okay. It doesn't make her a failed teacher. It certainly means that the system of this teacher and Jerry failed, but failed in a good sense. Failed in the sense that that's how we learn from the world, right? You don't learn from what works, you learn from what doesn't work. So here we have something to learn from for the family. And if this teacher had tried to swallow it and said, well, racial slurs, that really is not his fault, this and that, we wouldn't be able to work with anybody, right? So it's not that she's failed personally, but something has not worked. And the whole point of it is that when you find something doesn't work, that's where the wheels are. That's where you can start to do other things. People are motivated to do it, as long as you don't have people who are damaged by it. And if the homeroom teacher says, now look, I never fail with a student. Never. So what is she saying? Only students fail with me. That's not so helpful, right? So we don't want, and as therapists, we don't want that either, right? We don't want to be the therapist who never fails the client. We want to be therapists who say, I didn't know how to make this work. Me and my supervisor together, we didn't know how to make it work. And so there's an awful lot to learn from that and move on. Right? Otherwise, things don't move on, they go backwards. So now Harry and Lynn are working with the family. And what do they say to the father? They say to the father, the school can use your help. The school can use the father's help. Now, let's say that they had landed from Mars and dropped a note on the father's bedside table and said, the school can use your help. You know where that note's going to go, right? What school, what help? They can go jump in the lake, it's not my job, right? In other words, now we've created a system where people can be asking for each other's help, that's the point. And so everybody's part of the solution. We're not talking about the fact that the school is suffering because you're a lousy father. We're talking about the fact that the school can use your help. Is there a difference between these two statements? At the same point, back to back. Depends which way you're looking, the past or the future, right? So we're creating something that makes it possible to do the future, right? To do from here on. So is the father willing to help the school? And he says yes. He's getting a fair bit of confidence voted on him. And then the principal agrees that the father's going to help Jerry. Now, in terms of timing, it's only after the principal agrees that the father is going to help Jerry with school that the principal is able to say, and Jerry's going to change homeroom teachers. Why is that? Why does one have to come before the other? Because otherwise the school has made a problem. See, now we have some new system. We have, now that the father's going to help, we can reset. And so this, with the homeroom teacher who never had the father's help, so we're going to let it, we need to restart. And that's where the father also allows the school to say that we're starting over again because we have a new system. Now we have Jerry where the father is helping. Okay? Yeah.
It's not possible to have a failed system even when the therapists did their best part. Like something in the dynamic just didn't go even though they both did what's right.
Say that again.
It's not possible for a system to fail
Oh, systems fail all the time in a good way. In other words, if you, what was the discussion yesterday in the social work school? The student comes in, registers, pays, the faculty accepts him, and after a year, the student is out. Now, what do you want to call that? A success? Right? There's a change. You can't say that nothing has changed. It wasn't plan A, it's plan B, right? It's something that people wished for and it's not happening. Is that a failure? That particular plan has failed. Does that mean all the people are failures? Nobody's a failure. That's not the issue. The issue is that this project didn't.
Right, but what led up to this project?
What?
I'm saying is what leads up to the project failing, could it be that there's no way to avoid it, even if the therapist did something different? Or...
See, if you zoom out, the therapists can't afford to zoom out. If you zoom out somewhere, about where the satellites are, and you say, in human affairs, there's no such thing as a failure. Because things go along, they go along the way they have to be, people learn things, so there really is, it's just what there is, and you want to understand it, but there's no such thing as a failure. Zoom out, fine, who lives there? Do you want to live in the satellite? In other words, you're there with pain. When something is you're trying to do something and it's not working, there's pain. You can't, you can zoom out on the pain, or you can use the pain. What we do is we use the pain. If you zoom out on the pain and say, it's all part of the way God runs the world. Well, that's true, but how do you live with that right here, right? And if you skip the pain of it, then you're not being your part of it, which is being a human being. Human beings don't live on satellites. They can think about satellites. It's one of the interesting things we were able to do, is to think about zooming out. But we don't live there. And so we want the homeroom teacher to be able to say that it hurts her. Right? Otherwise, there are no I positions. It's just the one global I position, but nobody's there. We're talking about people living as human beings. So all of these things are important points about therapy in general, but I'm happy that we're able to get out of this course, out of this case, which we're going to leave you to read, because the rest of it just feels like therapy. I just want to show you two things quickly, and then we want to talk about our system here and how much we've succeeded or failed in our project. The main thing I want to show you is this. You see, there were two triangles in the family. There's a triangle in the system. There's a father, mother, and Jerry triangle. Mother is protective of Jerry. Jerry doesn't listen to her. And Jerry has little to do with father. So that's a triangle. And lo and behold, in the school is the same triangle between the homeroom teacher, the guidance counselor, and Jerry, right? And so, if you look at it this way, if you look at it, this way, you see you have two triangles, and they're rather similar. That's how systems interface. In other words, if you say, this kid isn't making it in school, and you say, how is he not making it in school? What does it look like in school? You're going to see the mirror of the family. If you say the kid's not making it in school, and you look at the family and see what the triangle is, you're seeing the mirror image of the school. So that allows us to want to work on the one place which is common to the two systems, which is this poor guy Jerry. Right? That's who kids are. Kids are the interface between systems.
Can you repeat this part again, please?
Right. If you want to look at, you see, here we have a guidance counselor who is protecting Jerry, and a father who's protecting Jerry. The father and the mother don't trust each other. The guidance counselor and the homeroom teacher don't trust each other. And the mother and Jerry, mother's job is discipline, no discipline. The homeroom teacher and Jerry, he's supposed to respect her, no respect. So you see how the two triangles mirror each other? That's what's important to try to learn. That's not in the article, right? But if you say, well, a kid lives in the interface between the family and the school system, let's say, so the kid will be at the center of two triangles. And many of the children that we see, that's how they feel. They feel that they're at the center of two triangles, and no matter what happens, one triangle makes the other triangle worse. The family yells at him more. He takes it out on the teacher. The teacher yells at him more. He takes it out on his mother, and so forth. So he's at the center of two intersecting triangles. And so the one way to work with it, not the only, but one way to work with it is the way that you see here, which has to do with moving between the two systems and detriangulating so that you raise the level of differentiation in two systems simultaneously. What was the mechanism for raising the differentiation of two systems simultaneously? Jerry swearing it as homeroom teacher. That's pretty amazing, right? Jerry wrote these racial slurs about his homeroom teacher. And look at all the power that had, right? Look at what was condensed into it as a problem. And look at how many wheels were condensed in that if you use them, you can make things start to change in two systems if you work with them right. So that's the thing that I wanted to leave you with. This is not a how-to course on how to work with systems. Those of you who are interested, there is a how-to course on how to work with systems, so I'll pass it around. It's not a how-to course, it's a very, very deep book called Lost in Familiar Places, and you can pass it around, and those of you who want to take a picture of it or whatever. But I think we're going to leave that for future work, because now it's 10:20. We have two things to talk about. The first is logistical, the second is the course. Logistically, while you may have been thinking, whatever you've been thinking, about what's going to happen on Wednesday mornings after today, we were doing some other thinking, but we weren't yet communicating with you. And so we were thinking about a whole program every Wednesday. Obviously, it's on the house. In other words, this isn't something that's part of your tuition. But we were thinking of a series of transitional programs that we wanted to do to help to go from this year to next year. But in order to do that, we need to know if you guys are going to be here, because maybe everybody else has already planned Wednesday morning is, oh, finally 4 hours free, and you're all committed. So among you, who of you are able to be continuing to come on Wednesday mornings? Dana, you want to say something?
For 3 weeks.
For the next 3 weeks. For the next week. More men than women, but okay, so we'll do it. And those of you who can, you know, but we'll do it, right? Okay. Now, I read the comments, and now is the time to try to talk about what we've done, what we haven't done, what worked better, what worked less well. This is the time to, for now I'm saying goodbye to you folks, not from the Institute, but as your teacher, I'll be back in the last semester. And for the men, I think I'll be doing the PGL next year.
Who's going to be the PGL for the women?
It's a work in progress. We'll let you know as soon as we know. So let's talk about this course. Yeah, you can turn it off.